Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. This video is going to specifically target the progression from going from locust pose all the way up to upward dog. So along with these progressions, I'm going to give you some tips to specifically target your strength in order to be able to do them safely for your shoulders, your elbows, and your wrists. While not every body is exactly the same, you're going to have to modify in one way or another. I know that I do, given that my arms are a little bit longer than my torso, so I adjust my hands accordingly for these. But also knowing that your strength is going to change over time. And if you do it properly at the beginning and you really follow the progressions and work through to build strength, you're going to eventually get to the point where you can actually do upward dog, you can do the chaturanga, you can help yourself out and finding more ease in your practice to allow yourself to flow and bring that mindful meditation part to the practice. So with that being said, you're going to probably need a couple blocks or some books or something if you don't have blocks at home to work on some strength tips. Use this video as maybe just view it to begin, pause it when you want to try something or watch it all the way through, and then watch it again, pausing and following along when you're ready. So with that being said, we're going to target a little bit of that upper back, right? So we're going to warm up our upper back. So what I'd like you to do is grab on to your block, sitting either on your knees or cross-legged. You're going to hold on to your block, you're going to squeeze it on either side without gripping it. So you're going to press with your palms, and you can just hold it out in front of you. All right, and then you're going to notice what happens when you press the block away. Those shoulder heads come out of their sockets, right? So this lengthens forward. And as you exhale, you draw it back into its socket. So that shoulder head now draws back. Now notice the scapula. As you inhale, the scapula kind of draw away from one another on the center line. They draw away from the spine. And then as you draw them back, they exhale, they come back onto that spine. All right? So play with that a couple more times if you need to. So you're going to inhale, extend out, exhale, draw it back. Just kind of notice that back part. So now bend your elbows. Kind of the same idea. So if you're doing upward dog or you're doing that baby cobra, shoulder blades roll back. If your shoulder heads are rounded forward in here, it's going to be really hard for you to get this motion to open the chest. You want to squeeze those shoulder blades back. Chest comes forward, lower belly draws in. So we're going to start with locust. Notice the engagement that you have in locust. Notice that engagement in your whole body. As you go into upward dog, as you go into baby cobra, you still want to have that engagement as if you're laying on the floor. It's going to make it a lot easier. So come all the way onto your belly. Lengthen those hands back toward your feet. Ground down through the toes. So those toenails ground down, especially that little pinky toe. That's going to help inner thighs spiral up. So just notice as you ground that little pinky toe down, those inner thighs start to spiral up toward the ceiling. Lengthen the tailbone, and as you inhale, lift the chest, draw those shoulder blades closer to the spine and away from your your ears, and then start to hover the hands. Engage the legs so much that maybe those knees start to come up off the ground. Good, take one more breath here. And exhale, lower down. So even here, there's progressions in the locust pose. So ground down once again into the toes. Lengthen the tailbone, roll the shoulders back, lift the hands, and then you're going to start to lift the legs. So hands reach back, glutes are engaged, hamstrings engaged, lower back, mid back, and those shoulders all drawing back toward the back wall. Take one more big inhale, lift the back of your head, and exhale, lower. Good, one more progression here. This is called, I like to call it shark pose, but it's just a variation of your arms here to help you roll your shoulders back. So come grounding again. Ground through the toes to begin, lengthen the tailbone, little pinky toe rolls down, interlink the hands behind your back. Either press the knuckles into your low back and inhale, roll the shoulders back, or exhale, start to lengthen the hands back toward your heels. Draw in, lengthen the spine, shoulders draw back, back of the head, maybe heels start to hover, and exhale, release it down. Take a moment, press back on your heels, and sitting up. So noticing the engagement that you had there. You can probably feel your whole back body, your glutes, your hamstrings, your upper back, your shoulders, right? You're feeling that engagement in the back body. Right, we're going to take that a little bit further. This next one, baby cobra, a little harder. You're going to find a little bit more engagement, probably in the middle back. So if you're not very strong in your mid back, like right below your shoulder blades, almost until your low back. That's going to be tight. It's going to get tired fast. So don't forget to breathe. Okay, we're going to hold that for a little bit. So roll all the way back down again. Again, find that engagement in the legs. A lot of times people go lazy in the legs and they think it's all in the upper body, but lengthen those legs, lengthen the tailbone to keep that compression out of your low back. Hands are going to come slightly forward so they're underneath your shoulders. Press into the hands, elbows draw back, roll the shoulders back, and then press into the hands slightly, lengthen the chest forward. Ground through those toes, little pinky toe down. Elbows draw in, you're going to start to feel that heat build right there below your shoulder blades. Good, back of the head lifts, one more full breath, and lower. Good. Adding on here, so as you add on, you're going to come to Cobra. If you felt that as a challenge, and you maybe started feeling that start going into your low back, stick with that progression. We'll get into some tips for strengthening in a moment. So from here, you're going to slide those hands back a little bit more, so that your thumbs are in line with your ribs, right below your chest. And then press down, elbows draw back, ground through those toes, lengthen the tailbone. Inhale, shoulders roll back. Exhale, press into the hands, and then lift the chin. So belly's coming up, lengthen through the tailbone, elbows are bent, shoulders are not here. Draw them back. Lengthen the tailbone. Can you engage through those legs more? Good, one more breath, press into the hands, and exhale, lower. Good. Take a moment there. So again, that one's going to be the hardest. I find that Cobra, if I have to hold Cobra for 5 to 6 breaths in a class, that teacher or that class I'm taking is definitely working on strengthening my mid-back, right? So you have to train that. Upward dog might be a little bit easier for you, but it's really important to find that engagement as we go into that by building up your baby Cobra and Cobra. So building those, finding that openness in the chest, and finding that length in the mid-back, all right? So going into upward dog. Not very often do we come into it all the way from the ground, but we're gonna go into that just so you have that as a progression. Acknowledge where your shoulders are once you get there. So again, hands are gonna slightly roll back so that your thumbs are in line with your ribs. Elbows draw in, and then just take a peek. You might wanna notice, they say that your elbow and your wrist should be in a straight 90 degrees. That might be hard on your wrist. I know it's hard on my wrist, so I slightly bring them forward so I have a little bit of an angle. You don't want to go into upward dog with your hand all the way here under your shoulder. It's not really good. As you notice, my shoulder kind of dips down. As I bring it back, my shoulder head can draw back. So you want to keep your shoulders safe. So draw back slightly, take a peek at those elbows, ground through the toes, shoulders roll back, back of the head lifts to the ceiling, press into the hands, think Cobra pose first. Now keep pressing into the hands, straighten the legs, straighten the arms. Your legs can still be on the ground. Now press into those hands, shoulders back, and now lengthen the tailbone toward your heels as you activate those legs. So you'll see those kneecaps just come right off. Shoulders keep rolling back. Notice if your shoulders are by your ears. Press down almost like you want to lift up off the ground. Good, keep grounding in the toes. And then ways to come out, bring the knees back down, shift the hips back, tuck the toes, and you can walk those hands back. Good. Take a moment. Figure out where you want to work from now, right? Upward dog is easy. It's easy for people to just kind of get here and hang out in it and kind of just be like, yep, I'm doing upward dog. But you really want to think of it as opening the chest. My chest is not very open here. You want to roll those shoulder heads back. Heart comes forward, but when you do that, sometimes there's some compression in the low back, so that's where you need to ground through the legs, lengthen the tailbone, and then lift up through the lower belly. So you're lifting up out of your arms, right? So thinking about that when you're going into that, that's a big thing. And then working with strength, right? Just to be able to hold that. There's different strength drills that you can do. A great strength drill is working, that's going to also help you with your chaturanga, is just that eccentric stage, that lowering stage from chaturanga, right? So push-ups in general, right? Maybe you can't do a full push-up, maybe your push-ups kind of, you're going from your knees, but they still kind of look like what I call a seal. You kind of flop down, right? You're not really using any muscles. So what you can do, keep bending your knees, just bend your elbows until you can't hold, take a breath, and then have your chest come first, and then your hips. Even if that is too hard, you have walls, right? So you can go up to your wall, do push-ups here, right? I highly recommend keeping your elbows in as you do your push-ups. You can do push-ups on a chair. You have different options to get that level to where you can do that. And that's just something you're gonna have to work on every day. Do 5 to 10 push-ups. Set a goal for yourself, either first thing in the morning, right before you go to bed, at lunch, after you brush your teeth, whatever it might be, working on that strength. Once you built up enough strength where you can go on your knees, right, as you're lowering on your knees all the way down, right, then try from those toes. Again, you might get halfway, then knees come down, then all the way. So continue on that so you can do 3 or 4 rounds of that. Then, for those that have worked on that, you can do lowering, and maybe you want to work on a little bit more. You're going to use the blocks to give yourself a little bit more height. Place them a little bit wider than your shoulders. Hands are going to be on the block, you're in that plank, and then as you exhale, you're going to lower, 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 lower. Now you're going lower all the way down. And then you're going to press yourself back and do the same thing again. So that's going to really help build up those muscles to support you on the chaturanga as well as the upward dog when you're there. All right? So those are a couple strength drills for that. A couple strength drills where you can work on building into that low back area, right? That part where, it feels like it gets tired fast in Cobra, baby Cobra. Other than practicing it and holding it for a little bit longer, other things you can do, doing different exercises, taking arms and legs out, ground through the toes. You're going to inhale, lift right arm, left leg, and down. Left arm, right leg, and down. Maybe lifting both arms, and down. Lifting both legs, and down. Lifting everything, and down. Even taking the arms and legs, lifting, holding, and going in and out like you're doing jumping jacks. That's going to help. Lengthen down. Other things you can do, hands behind the back. Also the same way if hands in front is too much. And you're going to inhale, lift. Exhale, down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, squeeze. And then you keep lifting and coming back and forth with the arms. So imagine you're doing a pull down, engaging those muscles, and then down. So using all those different strength tips to work with as you're working into the locust, baby Cobra to upward dog. And then as you're progressing, right, coming into ways that you can then come from that into your downward dog. Because a lot of times, especially if you're in my classes, doing these online or in my classes, I do a flow. So we do the vinyasa, which is the plank, chaturanga, upward dog, downward dog. Hopefully you've looked at some of the tips for lowering, some of the tips for downward facing dog and stepping forward, but now coming to that transition, right, to come back into downward dog. So I'm going to go through each of those different ones with different ways that you can come back. That's going to help you build strength, length, and good alignment for your downward dog from this position. So as always, as you're building your practice, you're becoming more mindful of where your hands go every time they're on the floor, mindful of where those feet go in standing poses, mindful of where those legs go in laying down poses. So just building that muscle memory, building that conscious awareness so that it does become more of a mindful meditation as you're moving through your practice, rather than always trying to remember where your feet and hands go. So go ahead and lay back down again. So from that locust pose, right, so you've lowered down and you're all the way down, ground through the toes. You're going to inhale, locust pose, maybe the toes lift, big inhale. Exhale, lower as you do. Hands are going to slide by the side, tuck the toes, press back knees, working on that strength. Keep the toes tucked. I like to go hips to heels. It gives me a little stretch there. Press into the hands, lift the hips. As you lift the hips, shift forward, lift the hips, and then press those heels back. Lift up through the tailbone. Good. And then you're coming forward, lowering knees or toes. Coming baby cobra. So you've gotten down to the floor. Walking those hands forward, elbows in, shoulders roll back, ground through the toes. Inhale, lifts the chest. Exhale, elbows draw back, heart draws forward, chin lifts. And then inhale, lower. Exhale, slides the hands back. Tuck the toes. Press back knees. hips to heels. I really like that move when I'm on the floor. It gives me a good stretch. And then pressing forward. See if this time when you press forward, you keep pressing into the hands, keep the arms straight, and then just lift the hips straight away. So you don't have to come all the way forward to come all the way back. Trying that again. Knees down, arms are straight. You're just gonna look at your hands, press into those hands, lift the hips and the sit bones back, and then downward dog, exhale. Inhale, comes forward again. Exhale, lower knees or toes all the way to the floor. This time, Cobra, so those hands come back a little bit more. Shoulders away from the ears, neck grows long, ground through the toes. Baby toe grounds down more. Inhale, shoulders roll back. Exhale, lift the chest, elbows in, heart forward, bellies forward. Shoulders away from the ears, and lower. Tuck the toes, press back knees, lift the hips, downward dog. Big inhale, and exhale. Inhale, shift the weight forward. Exhale, lower knees or toes. Good, doing Cobra again. Press down through those toes. Inhale, shoulders roll back. Exhale, lower. As you gain strength, tuck the toes. Press back on your toes to plank. And then downward facing dog. Great strength when you're pressing up from the ground. This time, upward dog. Inhale, shifts the weight forward. Exhale, lower. You can bend the elbows, then the knees touch. Shoulders are gonna roll back. Press into those hands. Ground the toes, and then straighten the legs. Shoulders roll back. Engage those glutes. Lift up out of the shoulders. And then to flip it over, knees down, hips to heels, tuck the toes, downward dog. Full progression. Inhale, shifts you forward. Exhale, lowers you halfway. Flip the toes, inhale, upward dog. Exhale, flip the toes, downward dog. Good, take a full inhale there. And exhale. Inhale, coming back down, sitting down, and taking a moment there. Couple things to remember. Never sacrifice your breath. Right? If you find that you're breathing very choppy and you're not having that full breath and it's kind of, or those come out a lot, especially when you're lowering or in that baby Cobra. Know that you need to practice, you need to go slower. Maybe you just need to breathe deeper, but try not to sacrifice doing the pose or going fast through the pose for your breath. Your practice and your body will thank you. So making sure that you're practicing this, take it time and time again. Check out some of my videos, go through the beginner ones, and I go a little bit slower through those vinyasas. Practice, enjoy, leave some comments of what you think, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for joining me. Drink lots of water, eat your veggies, wear some sunblock. Namaste.